Okay, good evening. We begin this evening by thanking our Amud Yomi sponsors. We thank Derek and Lauren Fine and Larry and Laura Franks for sponsoring the Amud Yomi share this evening for the refuah shlema of Avida Berkowitz, Avida Lee Bas Dina. In the merit of our Talmud Torah, she should have a refuah shlema keharaf ayin, a complete and enduring refuah shlema. Thank you very much. Well, we are on Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, 11a. My understanding is that Rabbi Silber got halfway down the Amud. Rabbi Silber asked me to finish today's Amud to get to the Mishnah, so it's a fairly short share tonight, short amount of Gemara, but actually a very exciting and very yesodistic, very fundamental Gemara, which teaches us about Chumras and Kulos. So just a quick reminder of what's going on here. There was a machlokes in the previous Mishnah about the position someone should be, how to understand the psukim in Kriya Shema. It says, B'shach b'chov kumechad. We take that literally, which means when you're laying down and when you get up. So does that mean that a person literally needs to be in a laying down position? Does a person have to be horizontal in order to say Kriya Shema at night? And Beis Shammai took it literally and said, yes, when a person goes to sleep at night, when they say Kriya Shema in the evening, they should be in a laying position. Beis Hillel said, no, it doesn't refer to the position, the physical position that the person is in. Rather, it refers to a time period, which is when you go to sleep at night. That's when you should recite Kriya Shema, but a person does not have to be in that position. So now we're going to pick up in the middle of the Yomad at the two dots. The Gemara has a Tan Rabbanan over there. The Gemara reads as follows. Tan Rabbanan. Beis Hillel says, Omdin v'korin, a person could be standing up and could recite Kriya Shema. Yoshvin v'korin, a person could be sitting down and recite Kriya Shema. Umatin v'korin, if a person is already in a leaning position, they can recite Kriya Shema in a leaning position. Halchim baderech v'korin, a person could be traveling along the way and recite Kriya Shema at the same time. Similarly, Osin b'malachtim v'korin, if a person is in the middle of malacha, a person could continue in the malacha that they're doing and recite Kriya Shema. The Gemara goes on to say, Umaisa, there's actually a story of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Shmuel and Elazar ben Azariah were sitting down together. They were sitting down and eating in a place together. V'haya Rabbi Yishmael muta. Rabbi Shmuel was laying down; he was leaning to the side. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah zakuf. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was erect; he was straight up. Now, kivan she'yagiyaz man Kriya Shema. It came time to recite Kriya Shema in the evening. So now what happened was Hita Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar started leaning to the side. The zakaf Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael got up. He got up into an erect position. So they switched. Now Rabbi Yishmael Amarlo. Rabbi Yishmael said, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Sorry, V'zakaf Rabbi Yishmael. Now Amarlo Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Yishmael. Elazar ben Azariah said to Rabbi Yishmael, Yishmael achi, my brother Yishmael, emshol lecha mashal. Let me give you an example of what just happened over here. L'mad davar doma. What does this compare to? Mashal la'echad she'omru lo. It's comparable to a person who says to his friend, Zikanecha migudo. You got a very nice beard. He compliments him and tells him, wow, what a nice big beard you got over there. Looks full, makes you look prestigious. And he's complimenting his beard. And he says to him, Amar lahem, he says, Yiyeh keneged hamashchisim. All right, I'll chop the whole beard off. That's a simple way of understanding what the Gemara is. A guy gives you a compliment, tells you have a nice beard, you say, really? You really like my beard? I'm going right now to get a razor to cut the whole beard off. There are other ways of understanding it as well, but that's a simple understanding that Rashi has. But basically the point was, a guy comes to pay you a compliment, to tell you that you look good in your beard. You respond in kind and say, thank you so much, I appreciate it. You maybe even pay him a compliment back, but you don't tell him, oh really, you like my beard? I'm cutting it off. And that's what he said. He says, here I am. I changed my position for you to show you some respect, and then you switch it. I mean, here I am leaning, you start switching back. Why are you switching the moment that I switch? In other words, one was leaning, one was erect, and then they switched positions. He says, I changed my position for you. So he said to him, Af kach, it's similar here, Ata, you're the same thing. Kozban sh'ani zakov ata muta. The entire time that I'm straight up, ata muta. You're leaning on the side. Achshav shani tesi. Now I go ahead. I lean on the side to emulate you. I want to follow your actions. I want to say, listen, I see that you're leaning, so I'll lean to the side too. What happens? Atazakafta. You get up. And I'm finally following what you're doing. The second I follow you, I'm emulating you, you change your mind and do something else. What's going on here? Why are you changing? Just because I'm emulating you. Amarlo, he said to him, Ani asisi kedivri beis Hillel. You're making a mistake. It's not just that I'm viewing this as if you're emulating my actions. What's happening here is, I'm actually getting up for a reason. The Mishnah told us that according to Beis Hillel, a person does not have to lean down physically when they're reciting Kriya Shema in the evening. It just says, B'shach b'cha, when you go to sleep, as a point of reference for time when to recite Kriya Shema. It doesn't actually mean to lean down. So I got up because Beis Hillel says, a person should be upright when they recite Kriya Shema. V'yata, you, asisu k'divrei Beis Shammai. You leaning to the side are following Beis Shammai, and I actually have a problem with that. V'lo od, not only that, ela shema yira talmidim, v'yikbu halach l'doros. What happens if our talmidim pass by right now? They see the two of us, Blazer ben Azariah, Bishmal, they're sitting there, they're leaning down to the side, and they're reciting Kriya Shema. Just imagine the scene. Everyone's going to say, I have a Meiser Rav for you. I have a story that took place with two very chashav Talmidei Chachamim. I passed by. They were reciting Kriya Shema as they were laying down. So you know what? It must be that's the halacha. From here on in, everyone in all the yeshivas are going to start leaning to the side as they recite Kriya Shema because they saw the Rabbi do that. That's inappropriate because we don't pass them like Beis Shammai. So the Gemara asks, okay, 2 points. I understand the first point you said that the reason why you got up because you wanted to follow Beis Hillel, not Beis Shammai. Why do you have to add something to that to say that the Talmidim, the students, are going to follow you? So the Gemara says, "My v'lo od." Why do you have to say not only that not only am I doing right by following Beis Hillel, that also the students are going to follow us? The Gemara says because you would think the following: the Chitim and Beis Hillel nami islahu matin. You might suggest that Beis Hillel is of the following opinion. Beis Hillel tells you you're not obligated to lean. But if you want to, you definitely can. In other words, Beis Shammai is the one who's much more particular about how you do it. Beis Shammai says, the pasuk says, Ubeshach b'cha, it means you have to be laying down. Beis Hillel says, no, you don't have to be laying down. If you want to be laying down, be laying down. If you don't want to be laying down, don't be laying down. In other words, you might think that Beis Hillel is of the opinion that you can do whatever you want. However, he's saying no. Hani Mili, the only time Beis Hillel says you're allowed to recite Kriya Shema while you're laying down is Demata v'asa me'ikara. You already were in a laying position. Aval hacha kivan da'adhashta havezakov. Until now, you were erect. You were straight up. Bahashta muta. Now you're leaning to the side. Then Amri Shma Mina Beis Shammai Svir Lahu. The Talmidim, the students who are going to pass by are going to say, hold on. My Rebbe was sitting there the entire time, upright. He was upright the whole time. And he leaned down for the sole purpose of reciting Kriya Shema. It must be that he follows the opinion of Beis Shammai, and it can't be that he's just simply saying, according to Beis Hillel, it's okay as well. So therefore, Amri Shema Mina Beis Shammai Svir Lahu and Shema Yira Talmidim Yikbu Halach L'Doros. We're worried that our Talmidim are going to start this new practice, and it's going to go for generation after generation after generation, this false minhag of people laying down while they recite Kriya Shema. So therefore, he was makbid that they should actually both be sitting up when they recite Kriya Shema. The Gemara continues. Tani Rabbi Yecheskel. Yecheskel taught the following. Also, K'divrei Beis Shammai, if a person follows the opinion of Beis Shammai, Asa, it's okay, it's perfectly fine. In other words, you have the option to follow the opinion of Beis Shammai if you want. Divrei Beis Hillel, and follow the opinion of Beis Hillel if you want. Asa, it's also good, it's fine, it's perfectly fine. That's opinion number one. Opinion number one is that even though the halach is we follow Beis Hillel, in other words, let's just get one thing clear. The Gemara in Maseches Eruvin is unequivocally clear that the halacha is whenever we have machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, we paskin like Beis Hillel. So there's no question that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, and a person is not obligated to recite Kriya Shema in a laying down position. That's clear that that's the halacha. The question is, is Beis Hillel actually makbid that you should not be laying down? The first opinion is they're indifferent about that. Beis Hillel doesn't have a problem with you laying down. You can if you want, but you're definitely not obligated to. If you happen to be a Rosh Hashiva or a Rav, you better be careful about doing that, because when people are going to watch you, they're going to say, listen, my Rav just laid down to say Kriya Shema, so I must recite Kriya Shema. There's a famous joke that people say that Rav Chaim Brisker was once lighting his menorah in his house, and as his Talmidim were standing around, they were watching him light menorah. One of them got too close, he banged into the menorah, and one of the oil glass holders fell out and cracked, broke on the floor. So one of the students quickly went to get a broom, and he swept it up, but he didn't want to miss his Rebbe lighting the menorah, so he just kept the broom right there, like leaning against the menorah, and he was going to, get rid of the broom after Reb Chaim finishes lighting the menorah. Reb Chaim said, no, please take the broom away. And he wouldn't light until the broom was taken away. Now, his Talmud removed the broom and made sure, he listened to his Rebbe, he got rid of it. After he finished lighting, he went to him and said, what's the problem? What's the halachic problem of having a broom next to the menorah when I light? And Reb Chaim told him, I didn't want to light the menorah with the broom there, because I know if I light the menorah with the broom, all my students from here on in, for all generations, are going to say, Reb Chaim was noyeg to light menorah with a broom, and therefore we all have to get a broom when we light the menorah. So again, you see this concept from the Gemara. You have to be very careful. When you're a leader of people, you have to be careful what you do. Sometimes what you do makes an impact on people, and you'll start false minhagim based off of those kinds of things. That's what the Gemara is saying. You have to be careful as a Rebbe to make sure not to teach your Talmidim to do the wrong thing. But the first opinion is that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both agree you can recite Kriya Shema in the laying position. Beis Hillel says you don't have to, but you may. The Gemara goes on. Rabbi Yosef has another opinion. Asik divrei Beis Shammai, lo asav v'lo klum. If a person actually follows the opinion of Beis Shammai, he actually has done nothing. In other words, it's very big chiddush that he hasn't done anything. That's quite a chiddush, and we'll have to get back to that in a minute. It's not, for it says in the Mishnah, and that we bring a riot to this concept. Misha Rosho v'rubo b'sukkah. A person who was the most of their body was inside the sukkah. V'shulchano b'soch habayis. His table was inside the house. Many of us have our sukkahs connected to our homes. So the halacha is, if you're physically located in your sukkah, but your table is inside the house, the Mishnah tells us, Beis Shammai Beis Shammai says, you're not allowed to eat like that in your sukkah. The reason is because the food will be on your table, you'll lean in, you'll end up being outside the sukkah. It's Gzeira midrabanan. Beis Hillel machshirin, Beis Hillel says it's kosher. Amru lahem Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says Beis Shammai. Ma'aseh, there's a story. Shahalchu zikni Beis Shammai v'zikni Beis Hillel. The elders of the school of Shammai and Hillel went levaker es Rabbi Yochanan ben Achoranis. They went to visit Rabbi Yochanan ben Achoranis. In Matza'u, they found Shayaroshav Ruba b'sukkah. They found him eating in such a manner where most of his body, his head and his body, were in the sukkah. V'shulchan b'soch habayis, and his table was inside the house. V'lo amru lo klum. They didn't say to him, and they didn't say anything to him. So you see clearly that they were fine with him eating in such a manner. So amru lahem, they said no. What are you talking about? They responded to Beis Hillel, Misham Raya. Sorry, the respondent said from Raya, you bring a Raya from there. Afhem amrullah. They did indeed say something to him. In Cain, hayisa noeg. If you were actually noeg like this, if this is how you practice by eating with most of your body inside the sukkah and your table inside the house, lo kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyamecha. You have never fulfilled the mitzvah sukkah. And the Gemara is bringing a Raya from the fact that you can have a din midrabanan telling you that if you don't follow the din midrabanan, you have not fulfilled your mitzvah d'oraisa, which is a huge chiddush. In other words, nobody can argue that this person's physically located inside the sukkah. Everyone has to agree this person's in the sukkah. There's a din midrabanan that he's not allowed to eat in such a manner because maybe he'll stretch himself out of the sukkah when he goes to get more food. Can you actually say if a person does that, that means they have not fulfilled their mitzvah d'oraisa? So, in understanding this Gemara, there are two opinions. There's Tosfos, and I believe it's the Ran. And Tosfos says, yes, Chachamim have the ability to tell you if you don't follow what we tell you, you are not yotz your mitzvah midoraisa. The other Rishonim say it doesn't mean you're not fulfilling your mitzvah, it just means you're not doing it properly. But again, the same thing over here, which is the way that Yosef is learning the Gemara is, since we don't paskin like Beis Shammai, if a person intentionally goes and follows the opinion of Beis Shammai to lay down when he recites Kriya Shema, the person has not fulfilled the mitzvah of reciting Kriya Shema. The Gemara goes on. Rav Nachman says something even more wild. He says, also if a person's makbid to lay down when he recites Kriya Shema, chayiv misa. A person is chayiv misa, he is chayiv the death penalty. Why? It's not, for it says in the Mishnah, Amar Reb Tarfon said, Ani ayisi baba derech, I was coming along the way, v'hiteisi likros k'divrei Beis Shammai, and I leaned down to say Kriya Shema like Beis Shammai. V'sikanti biatzmi, I put myself into a great sakana, in danger, because I stopped along the side of the road to get myself into a position, and I found myself in danger. Amrulo, they responded to him and said to him, Kedai hayisa lacho ba'atzmecha. Yes, you deserve it. Why? So avarta divrei Beis Hillel, because you violated the words of Beis Hillel. So the Gemara has three opinions. One of them is you can follow either opinion of Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel. The other one is no, you can't follow Beis Shammai. If you do follow Beis Shammai, you're not yotzi mitzvah Kriya Shema. And finally, the last opinion of the Gemara is that if a person follows Beis Shammai, he's chayiv misa. Just to see in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Samach Gimel, where this comes up, it says as follows. Misha rotza lahachmir, a person who wants to be machmir, la'amod kishu yoshev likrosim umut, to get up, because it says ubikumecha, like Beis Shammai, v'shach b'chav kumecha. So according to Beis Shammai, you must be standing. Person who wants to do that, nikra avarya. He's considered to be someone who has transgressed an avera. And the Mishnah Berurah writes as follows: nikra avaryan. Why? Deman de avar adrabanan shari l'mikrle avaryana. If Chazal tell us not to do something, and you say, no, I'll do it anyway, the person is considered to be avaryana. And he goes on, he has a lot of... I'm going to read just further. Lahachmir, he says, Kasav b'yam shel Shlomo, the Yam shel Shlomo writes, in Parak Zayin the Bava Kama, Misha machmir b'fnei rabin, a person who decides he wants to go in public and to accept upon himself a certain stringency, b'davar shemuter, something which is clearly permissible, v'ikala mechash liyuara, it looks like the person is trying to be arrogant, halach is benadano, so you put the person in chayrim. V'hainu, he explains, Im osa davar pasha tetero b'chal Yisrael. If everybody knows this thing is permissible, and this person arrogantly says, no, I'm a little bit better than everybody else, I'm going to be machmir, the halacha is, you put him in chayrim. If we know this person is doing l'shem shemayim, he does it because he has extra year shemayim, ein menadino, so you don't put him into chayrim, but nevertheless, machmir b'fnei rabbo v'rabbo meko, if a person is going to be more strict than his own Rebbe. You put the person in the cherem, even if you do l'shem shemayim. It is a very important lesson that comes from this, which is why were Chazal so makbid on this? What do we care so much if a person accepts upon himself a chumrah? Why does it bother us? So I think the pshat is, and there are those there are Rishonim who write this on this specific sugya, which is the concept of a psak halacha is so important because without it, then you have what is considered a sinulo kishtei Torahs. We make it like there's two different Torahs. There's a Torah for these kind of people and a Torah for those kind of people. That's terrible. HaTorah achasi. I always tell people we have one Torah. Doesn't make a difference if you're teaching the Torah to a person from background A, background B, city A, city B. We were all given the same Torah on Har Sinai. Now, when Chazal tell us that something is the halacha, that's the halacha. If one community says, that's the halacha for like the people who, those kind of people. But for us, that's not the halacha. Be very, very careful with that because what you end up doing is, you end up saying there's two different Torahs. And Chazal are very makbid not to do that. And that's what we see from this Gemara. So much so that they went over to Rabbi Tarfon and said, you're chayiv misa. What did he do already? He followed Beis Shammai's opinion? The answer is yes. The Baskel came out in Erevin and told us that's not the halacha. We don't paskin like Beis Shammai. Therefore, all of Klal Yisrael accepted upon themselves. You're not obligated to lay down when you say Kriya Shema, so much so you can even put yourself into danger. And Chazal tell us if a person ends up getting hurt because of that, they deserve it because they did not respect the concept of a psak halacha. We'll stop here tonight at the Mishnah on Yud Aleph and Aleph. Have a wonderful evening.